has been 21 years since Arsenal last won the English Premier League. And though many have felt that they should have won it in the past 2 years, I disagreed because I felt they were not good enough. But that has totally changed now. For 2 years, the question has been, what piece is Arsenal missing? A number 9? A midfield anchor? An allied dribbler? Well, this summer, Mikel Arteta didn't find one piece. He found 3. Gyökeres, Zubimendi, and my favorite, Eberechi Eze. Today, we are not dealing in speculations. We are dealing in tactical certainty. I am finally convinced Arsenal has the 90% possibility to lift the Premier League trophy. We are going to show you with surgical precision how their new 4-3-3 structure is now technically, strategically, and emotionally near flawless, finally making them superior to most rivals. But hold that thought. I said 90%. What is the missing 10%? At the very end of this episode, I will reveal the final deep-seated flaws, a tactical blind spot that even these 3 world-class signings might not be able to fix for us now, which could see this whole perfect plan collapse big time. Before we dive into the title race debate, and you know how confident I am, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it's the single biggest way you can help this channel grow and keep the analysis coming. One click helps us out huge. Okay, subscribe done? Good. Now let's talk Premier League champions.
Welcome back to Global Football Insight with Olise, and my name is Omotoyosi Adebanjo. Today, we're diving straight into the big question every Arsenal fan is whispering. Could this finally be their season? After years of so close heartbreaks, and the Gunners look sharper this season. They're hungrier this season than ever. But anyways, joining us today is Sunday Olise, of course, ready to back Arsenal with a 90% title prediction. And we've got Alex in the studio today as well, a fanatical football fan who is not afraid to call the hype what it is, just a hype. Welcome, Alex. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to discuss Arsenal's potential.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you here too on the show. Like Sunday would always say, hold on to your seats because this one is going to be fiery, it's going to be funny, and maybe a little uncomfortable for some Arsenal faithfuls. But then again, wow, Sunday, with that intro, anyone would think you secretly joined the Gunners fan club. Break it down for us. Why are you so sure Arsenal are 90% favorites to lift the Premier League title this time?
Well, for my viewers, I'm not a Gunner, although I like beautiful football, and Arsenal they do so sometimes. This is no longer the Arsenal that's played in the past years.
Yeah.
So many things have changed now. On this episode, I'm going to break it down tactically. Our advice to our viewers is just listen carefully because every word I'm about to say is very important if you want to understand Arsenal. To start with, Arsenal is a team that is built to play the 4-3-3 playing formation. That means there are 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 strikers. Now, the 3 midfielders in the midfield of Arsenal are the most important tools for the Arsenal style of play. There are 3 ways you play midfielders. You can play the 3 midfielders flat, 3 of them flat. You can play the 3 midfielders in a triangular form, or you can play the 3 midfielders in an inverted triangular form. Now, what Arsenal has done this season is what they've never done in the past. And that's why I feel they're potential candidates to be champions. They have not bought a top player in Zubimendi. Don't forget, this is a Spanish international, and Spain is one of the best teams in the world. So this player now gives Rice, Nigerians call him rice and beans. This player gives Rice the opportunity now to be able to be a box-to-box player and go forward, in and out. That makes Rice into a more offensive player automatically. Now, this is the jigsaw. His name is Eberechi Eze. This is the player that's good for Arsenal, but sad for me because he is supposed to be wearing the green, white, green of Nigeria. He is an exceptional player.
I have to say, we're very happy to have him.
You're lucky to have him.
This player is polyvalent, like the French would say, in the sense that he can play central offensive midfield. He can play as a twin offensive midfielder. He can play on the left midfield. Coming inside, he can dribble. He is strong. He is fast. He can shoot. He can pass. And he has vision. And to top it all, he can defend. And then Arsenal did something special. They bought Gyökeres. In the past, Arsenal have been struggling offensively. Now, with these three players, I give Arsenal 90% chance of winning this title. I hope I didn't bore you too much with tactical stuff.
I think with the 10%, I'm glad that you've left the 10% there, because I think a lot of Arsenal fans are jumping on this. We're going to win the league. We're a massive 3 points ahead of anybody else, and they feel like they've already won it. And that's that 90%. But I have to disagree a little bit, Sonny, because that 10% is, I think, more likely what is going to happen. And yeah, you made some really good points, especially Eze. I think absolutely fantastic signing. I do think Arsenal are a much better side this year. I think the most important thing is that they've got a much bigger squad of quality players. Not a bigger squad in terms of numbers, but in terms of quality. So I do think that they're going to be up there for the majority of the season. But that 10% is the other teams in the league.
Alex, one that I've made very clear is the fact that 10%, I will be revealing it at the end, like I said earlier. Now, that 10%, that is why I feel my co-host Toyosi said Arsenal fans could be uncomfortable afterwards.
Yeah.
And that is where I feel those who are haters of Gunners should wait till the end, because it could make for heartbreak.
Yeah, in fact, you had me there in the first half Sunday, because I almost thought you were ready to print the title T-shirt for Arsenal. That,
Well, you
But
finished
I'll
me
come to
already
you.
at the beginning. You said I have become a Gunner. So.
I'm Tabi. You're giving me that vibe. But let me come to you, Alex. Sunday says Zubimendi has been the missing piece for Arsenal, the fixer that makes Rice even deadlier or even better, right? But let's be honest, Alex, isn't he just an expensive, slower version of what Arsenal has already had? Or won't top teams press this man, and force him to go for the long balls all over again?
So yeah, no, I think he's a great signing. I think, as I said before, I think the signings that Arsenal have made have been quality, and I think as a side they're going to be exciting to watch this season, and I think he's going to be a great player. The thing is that we're 8 games in. I think some people, maybe Sonny, getting a little bit too excited that we really are only 8 games in, and I think Arsenal, with the tactics that they're using at the moment, are going to be caught out. And what we've seen in the past is the inability to adapt when they do get caught out. And we've already seen it a little bit this season, where Arsenal have won games 1-0, and the pundits, the fans have been, oh, well, that's how champions do it. They win by winning by 1 goal. You can also see it as it's really lucky, to get that 1 goal in the 87th minute, 89th minute, and you realize that they're actually struggled to break teams down. And I do believe that, he's allowing Rice to get further forward, which I believe that the same is happening for the England team as well. They're having Anderson in the more defensive role, is allowing Rice to get up front. And we've seen with England of late, that, some really great results. I do believe that's down to Rice. But as I said before, the Premier League is getting so much stronger. We've got teams that are coming up from the Championship that are now second. Sunderland are second in the league. We've got Brentford, who beat Liverpool last night. It's an amazing league, and I do believe that Arsenal are going to get stuck, especially against that low block at stages, and it's if they can break it down. And I'll come on to this point in a bit more detail in a bit, but one of the things that I think they're missing is this 2025 season striker, which Liverpool, Man City definitely do have.
Well, Alex, I think it's not a question of being excited. That's why I said 90%. Because they've never had a team this good. That is my own. I'm looking at it now from an ex-player's point of view, from a technician's point of view. This team is the most composed and solid team Arsenal have had in the past 20 years. It might shock people, but eventually you will get, as this podcast goes on, you will see it out of pulling through. When it comes defensively, and that is why I feel that the ability for them to now play that inverted triangle midfield system, that opens them up to be able to be more offensive. And that makes them even more dangerous. And the fact that Zubimendi is now behind Rice gives him an opportunity to be able to express himself even more. And like you rightfully said, I totally agree with you. Rice is, in fact, when he's playing like this, for me, he's Rice. But when he was, sometimes I have to call him Beans, like the rice and beans. When it's not going well, I call him Beans. But when he's really getting it, then I say, no, this is Rice.
I think one of the things that you just said is really important with when you talk about a player being so instrumental to a team.
Mhm.
What happens when they get injured? What happens when they're having a bad game or their confidence goes? We saw it with Arsenal last season with Saka getting injured. They relied so heavily on him, and they have changed their tactics not to rely on him. But now the team is relying on other players. What happens when those players get injured? And that's the big question I have for Arsenal, because I do feel that they have a really strong team. I do believe that they've improved their depth, but can Arteta tactically, be as masterful as his mentor Pep in adapting and changing to go on and win the league?
Well, I'm not a fan of that mentorship stuff, because if that mentorship stuff really worked, then every assistant that Guardiola has had in the past 20 years he's been coaching, or 15 years been coaching, they will have been winning titles all around the world, because he's had so many of them. Funny enough, he's the only one who's winning, and his assistants have never won. So it's that mentorship stuff. I'm not a big fan of it.
Well, we've got Maresca. Maresca won the Club World Cup, if you can count that one.
Well, we can count that. But Maresca, in as much as they're trying to push him up to be an ex-assistant of Guardiola, was not really the assistant sitting beside Guardiola when he was at Manchester City. So
It was Mikel Arteta.
It was Mikel Arteta. They are trying to push it like a brand. They pushed it like a brand to sell the man. So, but in reality, he was kind of like a third or a fourth assistant. So,
all right. We've mentioned the influence of Declan Rice, Zubimendi coming into the side, and just like Alex rightfully said, talking about how grinding out results, 1-0 result. We've seen that on several occasions, and pundits here and there would say that's how champions do it. That's how you win the league at the end of the season. You can't win games with 3-0 all the time, right? But at the end of the day, when you play against teams that have low blocks, the way they set up, and you're trying to protect a lead, does that not leave you open to counterattacks? Does that not leave you to, teams who are pacier, because your midfield is quite slow?
Well, this is where the manager comes into play, in the sense that in as much as you know that you're playing a system that is very offensive. In fact, this system, some call it 4-3-3, but in reality, the way Arsenal is going to be playing is going to be a 4-1-4-1 playing style. That means they're going to have 4 defenders, Zubimendi in front of them, and you're going to have almost a line of offense. You're going to have 4 offensive midfielders going up there, and you have Gyökeres in front of them. So it's going to be like that. It's going to be hyper offensive. But there is a remedy to it. The remedy to this is quite simple. The 4-3 you are looking at, that I just made that into a 4-1-4-1 style, when you're not in possession, normally should migrate or should evolve into a 4-5-1. That means the moment you lose the ball, it is only Gyökeres that has the right now to stay up front. The other midfielders all gather in. The 2 players on the side should come in and just make a block in the midfield. That is one thing I think that the capability to change this from a 4-3-3 for Arsenal into a 4-5-1 is what will solve that possibility. Any tactical brain that is coming against Arsenal knows that this is what they have to do.
Alex, if Rice gets injured or Odegaard goes off form, we've seen Odegaard get injured back-to-back now this season already, and we're not even into the first 12 games of the season. Can players like Havertz, who have been on the bench for quite a while, really step up into that number 8 role without breaking the rhythm that Arsenal already have right now? Isn't the Arsenal midfield depth still a wrong turn away from a big collapse for Arsenal this season?
Yeah, I think they've strengthened the squad in terms of being able to bring in players when players get injured or are not performing well. We've seen Odegaard come back from injury and not quite have that edge that he had before his injury, and they've been able to bring in players to kind of replace him. I think Rice is important for so many reasons, because it's not only his playing. Arsenal, as we know, are relying very heavily on set pieces, and Rice is a fantastic set piece taker. We've got players like Gabriel, who's scoring goals from set pieces. He is reportedly injured for the next match against a team that I do think Arsenal might struggle against, was Crystal Palace. And I think that bringing players in to a team that are playing a very kind of quite rigid structure can be really difficult. it's okay when you're bringing those players in, they've got this confidence about them. But, Havertz, he's improved since he's came from Arsenal, but I still don't believe that he's got that confidence that, the amazing players in the Premier League. I wouldn't say that Havertz is one of those players that you're going to go, oh yeah, he's top 10 Premier League players of all time. And, it's just not going to happen. So you're not bringing in this player with huge confidence or huge experience. And, at the end of the day, the most amount of goals that Havertz has scored in a season is 15. We're not talking big, huge numbers here. And that's where I struggle, because I think the signing of Gyökeres is, I don't believe that he's been playing bad just because he's not been scoring loads of goals. Do believe that he can hold the ball up for Arsenal, be a nuisance for defenders, but it's not like having Haaland to rely on. Having you look at Liverpool's squad. I know that they're having a bit of a bad patch at the moment. You look at this squad of Mo Salah, Isaac, Ekitike. It's very, very different to bringing on Kai Havertz. That's how I see it.
Why I'm putting it out there that I feel that 90% they have a chance to win the league is because of this. Now, you can look at Arsenal in this way. The Arsenal of the past was like a man who had one good leg and one weak leg. That was the good leg now being Saka, and on the weak leg being the left side. So that means that the opponents, like you saw it against Paris Saint-Germain, Mendes just put Saka in his pockets and Arsenal was quiet. They were quiet. But now, with the purchase of Eze, and let's not forget, they have Madueke in the team. This gives also Arsenal an opportunity now to have a very solid international player on the left side in Eze. So that means now, finally, they are no longer a man with just one and a half legs. I totally agree that it's not going to be easy going up front. I've been blessed in my career to have won 8 titles. And each of the titles that I did win as a player, we did not win every game convincingly. In fact, 30% of the games we won, we struggled to win them. Sometimes it was just a question of ball hitting the goalpost and going in. Sometimes it was just the fact that one defender from the opposition was sleeping and we were really, really not that good that day and we were able to win 1-0. So you must have it in mind that in a season that you're playing 38 games like the Premier League, just tell yourself 30% of the games we're going to struggle and we're going to be 70% on a level. So, and that is what has happened to Arsenal so far, in my opinion.
All right, Alex took the next question out of my mouth, talking about Victor Gyökeres. We all know as Arsenal needed that guarantee goal getter, a goal striker, a striker who can score goals, give you at least 30 season goals, right? Now, Victor Gyökeres has arrived with a monster price tag. How would we rate this guy in the first 10 games or 11 games of the season? Is it the real deal? Or is it just someone who will be bullied like the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Ruben Diaz, and somehow his physical work is still into question? And, him disappearing in big games is actually a big problem for Arsenal.
Yeah. I give him a 6 out of 10. I don't think that he's done anything majorly wrong. We've seen, for example, so far what we've seen of Isaac for Liverpool. For example, there's not really much of a rating you can give him because he's just not really done anything yet. The difference I would say is that I can't quite see where he's going to get to that level 10, because we're seeing that he's giving so much passion, he's giving so much effort, he's involved in the games, he is making, a nuisance of himself, but it's not enough. That only gives you that 6 out of 10. That's okay. All of that effort, all of that work is okay for a player like Declan Rice. Declan Rice can go, 10, 20 games without scoring a goal and be the best player on the pitch, the most influential player on the pitch, because that's his job. But for a striker, you need to be scoring goals. And it's something that I think is really important and vital to win the league. We've seen it with every single team that has won the league has had a prolific goal scorer. It doesn't matter if that's, Man City with Haaland, we've got Liverpool with Mo Salah, Leicester City with Jamie Vardy, the season that they won the league. You look at even going further back than that, you've got United that had prolific strikers. Where is Arsenal's prolific striker? And to bring in a player that's going to be a nuisance or, he's going to score the odd goal off a set piece. Yeah, it's okay if that's your second strike, but he's being brought to be their number 9, their key striker to score 20, 25 goals at the very least a season. And I can't at this moment see that happening because, he's giving everything. Where is the extra that he can give? It's also coming into the Premier League.
I
Sunday,
think you should.
is Alex not being too nice on Gyökeres with 60% over 100? Well, I think it should be way less,
I
if you
think
ask me.
I think Alex is aware that Nigeria we have so many Arsenal fans, and that a lot of Arsenal fans are running around Europe, so he doesn't want to hurt their feelings. Looking at the recruitments, when you're talking of Gyökeres and you're talking of the fact that he was very expensive to buy, let's ask ourselves one question: what has Arsenal been doing in the past? In fact, in the past few years, that is why I never rated Arsenal to be title candidates for the past 3-4 years. Arsenal, they've not been doing transfers. They've been a dumping ground, if I may use that word. Players that Man City did not need anymore, found them to be surplus to requirements. You had Jesus, you had players like Zinchenko, and they were just players, they were just offloaded into Arsenal. And then the biggest surprise also, even players that Chelsea felt, well, you're bothering us a bit. They put Sterling back there. They pushed in, with all due respect, Havertz there. We have to now compare what Arsenal had in the past before Gyökeres came and what they have now with Gyökeres. They had Havertz, who I feel is way, way less effective than Gyökeres, and they were able to be second twice. Gyökeres, in my opinion, is better than Havertz. Now, this is where someone will say, yeah, but Havertz won the Champions League. Yeah, that season they won the Champions League. He was not playing a good season. He was only fortunate to have scored in the final. I think that for Arsenal to do well from a tactical point of view, it is not enough to just rely on Gyökeres. And I think they know it. That is why you see this now push to have Rice more offensive, to create more players that will come in between the lines. And in fact, these two offensive midfielders that are using now with the inverted triangle midfield gives them the opportunity now to have players that are going to be way, way more, they're going to have more numbers in the box when they go forward. So I think that is a solution for them.
I think it has been a solution for them to rely on the rest of their team, though, for the last 5 years. I can't really remember a time where the last time that Arsenal had a prolific striker. So they've always relied on this kind of the accumulation of the team goals to make up for the fact that they've not got a 25
champions. I think that's
exactly. And so I get your point, but is that not the way that Arsenal have kind of relied on things in the past? I do believe that it's improved. I might have been a little bit generous with my 60% of Gyökeres, but I do. The reason I do give him 60% is because I am a big. I was as a player, I wasn't necessarily the most prolific, but I was a hard worker. I gave everything to whenever I played football, and
you like hard workers.
Watching football. Always enjoyed watching players that give 100%, are always there. Just to give you an idea, my favorite player is N'Golo Kante, because there's not a player that is, more involved in the game in the sense of it. So I like that of him, but that's not what you want in a, Haaland can have 9 touches in a game and score a hat trick. Mm-hmm. That's what you need for Arsenal, and they just don't have that. And that, for me, makes that 10% a lot bigger.
Well, I actually feel to compensate for it, they are better than they were last year. Mm-hmm. And that is one thing that is very, very clear. Gyökeres moves better. He's faster. He's strong. He sacrifices for the team. But in a playing style like this, where like I said earlier, in a playing style where you have the 4-1, that one player up front is going to be that. Let's not forget that last season, even when Havertz played at the point striker, he was always drifting to the left side. So they ended up even almost not having anybody in the central point finishing up. Mm-hmm. So I feel that he's a much better striker. Obviously, he can do much better. He can do much better than he's doing now. But I wouldn't put it down to him being the reason why he's not doing well.
Okay, before we go to Mikel Arteta's style of play, there's something conflicting here from what Alex have said and yourself too. And there's something that both of you have said that have also correlated. Now, Arsenal's best season, where Martinelli scored double-figure goals, Bukayo Saka scored double-figure goals, Kai Havertz scored double-figure goals, and I think even Martin Odegaard had his best season ever for Arsenal, and in that same period. And yet they failed to win the league, failed to win any trophy at all. And now you say You look at this squad in the 2025-2026 season and say they are better than the previous squad. How does that make sense? Like, they still don't give you that vibe that they gave you in their very first season when they almost won the league. I said almost because they topped the table for 300 and how many years now, before they surrendered it to Manchester City.
I'll let you go for that one, Sonny, because
well, I can see. I get the counter attack. Well, you're trying to find out how come that this season we feel they're better than the other season.
Yeah, they scored a lot of goals and even conceded less. But this season, they look on paper like the best team suddenly. Yeah.
The Arsenal of the past compared to the Arsenal now, totally different team. Why? Because in the past, they had Martinelli on their left side. With all due respect, Martinelli is not a player that I feel can carry you to win the title as he is. Those seasons, they did not have the physical presence that they're having this season when it comes to the midfield. The team this season is way much better than they had. I think in the past 3 years, in my opinion, Arsenal were overperforming. That's why they were even able to get to the second position. I think they were not even
punching above their weight.
They were punching above their weight. Thank you. When they got second, you could see that even when they led, there was one point, I think 3 seasons ago, they were leading almost by 9 points and ended up eventually still losing the title because eventually the quality you needed to sustain that, it was lacking in the team. But now they have that due to the fact that the players that were now carrying the flag those seasons are the players that are now sitting on the bench. The team itself is better now. That is why I am convinced that 90% they can win the title.
Okay.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sonny, with one thing that you said there. And that's about Arsenal punching above their weight. And I agree. That past seasons they've punched above their weight and they've done better. So this season they need to punch above their weight again. Yes, they've improved their team. So now you might say, oh, well, they have to punch a little bit less than weight, but they still have to do it to win. And we can see that in the league position that they're in right now, with the points that they have right now, the goal difference that they have right now.
Yeah.
You can see it that with one result, let's take it, we can talk. We're doing this on Sunday morning, and we've got Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, and we've got Man City playing today as well. If Man City win today and Arsenal lose against Crystal Palace, with the way that Crystal Palace have been performing of late, have been doing fantastic, could happen. It's not an unrealistic result to happen. Man City go top. And Man City have had a rough start to the season, apparently.
They've been poor by their standards.
Yeah.
But they'll be top of the league. And it's kind of like we're talking about Arsenal having a 90% chance of winning the league, whereas in one result, one weekend, on one day, Arsenal can go to second. And Man City, who have had a rough start to the season, go top. But you see the difference. Arsenal is kind of, they're kind of like punching above they're doing amazing. They're going to win the league and stuff. And it's Man City who had a bit of a rough start, but are top of the league. We've seen it for the last, before Liverpool had this, bad patch. Everyone was saying that Liverpool hadn't clicked. Liverpool weren't doing that great. They were top of the league or second with, the same points. But they're having a rough start to the season and still in, the top parts of the league. Whereas in Arsenal are 100% doing amazing because for them, they are punching above their weight. And for me, this is the reason that I think, anybody saying that Arsenal are going to win the league at this stage of the season is delusional because it's forgetting the fact that Man City and Liverpool, however much that, they might be having these rough patches at the beginning of the season, are still up there a few points behind Arsenal. And with a couple of changes in a couple of bad games, a couple of points dropped, everything changes. And I don't think Arsenal are prepared for that. I think Man City can have a rough start to the season and start score. Haaland has scored 11 goals already this season in the Premier League. He scored 22 goals last season and it was a bad season for him. People were talking about Haaland. Has Haaland lost his edge? Is Haaland the striker that he was? He scored 22 goals. That's a prolific striker in the Premier League. You know,
That is,
most
people are
teams would
never happy.
love a 22 goals a season.
People are never happy.
Yeah.
Say that again, Sonny. Sorry.
People are never happy. You can't satisfy them. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, I think the media, you know, I've worked in the media for quite a long time. And there's a lot of negativity always towards everything in football. You know, Haaland for me is the reason why Man City are going to win the league again this year. They're the team that I think are going to challenge Arsenal the most. I think Liverpool would be there, but I think with Liverpool, they've made too much of a big change of their team. I think they have, you know, they've spent a lot of money, Liverpool. They've bought some fantastic players. I will say now that I think Liverpool will win the league next season because I think they will have gelled. I think it would have, you know, all come together.
I don't think so.
But Man City, they haven't made that much of a change. They're just adapting slightly to the loss of some key players. You got players coming back. I just think that you hit the nail on the head saying that they're punching above their weight because they're going to continue to punch above their weight as long as they are at the top of the league. Arsenal will be punching above their weight. If Man City are top of the league, you'll still have journalists saying, "Oh, Man City are having a bit of a bad season," because they're not winning every single game.
Yeah,
you know?
totally agree.
And there's a difference. There's a difference.
Hey, if you're hooked on these incredible stories and want more epic insights, smash that like button. Subscribe now to our podcast channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Share with your friends and join our community on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, X, and Facebook for exclusive updates and more unforgettable tales. Now let's get back to the episode. 90% I'm talking about is this. That 90% is big. Now, this is where I will break it down to why it is 90%. The 90% is coming to the point that majority of the teams that are title contenders this season are sick.
Yeah.
They have the flu. They have the virus running in them. Liverpool, self-inflicted virus.
Yeah.
Manchester City,
I agree.
Manchester City feel the boss is thinking he's a player instead of letting the players play. I think that is what holding Manchester City down now. Because otherwise, if he lets the players really play, like if you see Savinho sitting on the bench and he's playing a youth player, that tells you he's trying to make a point like he made at the Champions League final that cost them the final and Chelsea took it.
Yeah.
That is it. That is the sickness. But if you look at the other teams, let's look at Chelsea. Chelsea is doing great, even though they lost again. He's doing great. Why? Because this is a team that practically did not have a break. They are playing 2 seasons at a go. They finish, they continue with the Club World Cup, and now they continue again. So that they are where they are is really great. But why Arsenal has a 90% chance of winning this? All these teams are sick, and you had a break, and you got some top players. And that is why I feel if they don't believe in their chances now, and I believe that based on this, at one point, and they should win, they should win this title. And furthermore, this is a point I would like us to take a look at. You don't win the league based on just the goals you score. You win the league based on the least number of goals you concede. At the moment, Arsenal is doing great at that. That is what I would like us to take into account. Because when I was playing in Italy, when I played in Italy, that was when the league was like what the Premier League is now. That is where the whole top players in the world went to. The priority was this. We should never concede. We will get one chance. The moment we score that one, the door is closed. That is what you heard. They used to hear this Catenaccio. We trained it on a daily basis, defensively. How to make sure we close every angle for you to score. But when we got one, it was closed. And that is why I feel that Arsenal have this 90% chance to be champions.
Okay, to stay with you, Sunday, you've mentioned Eberechi earlier and how it brings chaos, unpredictable chaos to Arsenal or for Arsenal. But we know Mikel Arteta's game is, built on precision. He likes to control everything. Every play that happens with Arsenal, he wants to be in control of it. Every pass, every rotation is planned. But with Eberechi, it's totally different. Coming from Crystal Palace, where they play chaotic football, they express themselves freely. Would bringing in a freelancer now disrupt the system, especially with the connection that Saka and Odegaard already have as link-up players?
Well, there is, with all due respect to Arteta, I think that one of the basic problems he has is that he wants to play football by the book, and football is not by the book. Football is not predictable.
Well, he got it
Arsenal,
from his boss.
well, his boss at the same time, in contrast to him, his boss allows players, some players, especially in the offensive role, to have the freedom to finish.
Think for themselves.
Think for themselves when it comes to finishing. But whereas, and in case our viewers don't know who you're calling the boss, you're talking about Guardiola. Whereas, whereas Arteta is like trying to channel everything going up front, where you move, who moves, and that. And that has made Arsenal very predictable in the past. And that was why they were just dominated easily by Paris Saint-Germain. Because they knew that they were going to come at Saka. They just closed everything around it. They let Odegaard all the time shift to Saka's area and close everything else. They know the other side couldn't hurt them, and they were able to finish it. But why, coming to your question, what Eze brings us advantage to Arsenal is the fact that he is unpredictable. We saw it at the Champions League game. Arsenal, with Odegaard and all the likes, they like to pass, and just tap the ball in.
Yeah.
We saw Eze shooting from 25 meters from goal. We saw him taking on defenders, coming inside, going out. He is unpredictable. Having coached for some years, I can tell you that for you to win, it is important that you have an organized structure coming from the back. You must have it. But where it becomes now different, that organized structure has to relax a bit and you have to get flexible, is in the final third. That is the last part of the pitch. There you have to get for creativity, leave freedom to the players. And there's what we call the 5 principles of attacking. One of the principles of attacking is that you have to have this flexibility and freedom, unpredictable. So that is what Eze brings into this team. And Madueke also.
It's not. It must be hard because it's been a joy to watch them play for both Arsenal and England. I think I completely agree with you in the sense of them being important and also a change to what is normal to the structural way that Arsenal and Arteta likes to play. Also, again, my kind of worry is that I know that Arteta sees it because you'd have to be blind not to be able to see what they could do. And my worry is does he make that impact too late in games? I've seen it in games where, Arteta is making substitutes slightly later in the game than I probably would because he believes that his system is going to work. But I do feel like I'm watching Arsenal play and you're not scoring goals. You haven't got that ability to score goals in this game. You need to change things up. And you can see it by half time. And you kind of go, okay, well, 5-10 minutes into the second half and you see no change, make the change. Have the guts to kind of go, okay, well, I'm going to rip the team apart a bit and change things up. I hope to see that Arteta does that this season more so. But in the past, I feel like that's been the thing that's held them back is that, not wanting to, relying on the system. This is a system. We've got to go down the system. We're going to score a goal. But when that system's being blocked by the teams that we've got in this league, I think this season is going to be extremely exciting because there's 17 teams that are, really performing. I think, there's some teams that are struggling. The top three teams of the championship that came up, they're actually challenging this year in the sense they're making it tough for teams. That makes it tough for the teams that want to win the league because championship teams are really hard to play against because they've had the toughness of the championships, a very tough league. So when teams come up and they play with a lot of passion, they play quite defensively, they make it hard for teams to play, especially when you're going to places like Ellen Road, you're going to Turf Moor with very, very hostile environments. Can Arsenal cope with that? And that's where I see the Arsenal going to struggle this season is being able to adapt from the system that is working at the moment, to be able to change and to be able to make a difference in a game and make it early enough. Because I do agree with you that having players that are chaotic or, a bit more imaginative, maybe is a word that you could use, is important to be able to bring them on and to be able to change a game. But does Arteta allow that at the right time?
What makes you a good coach is when the referee blows the whistle and it starts to go and you see things happening and you act immediately. You're able to change things. And that's why if you watch the top coaches who win titles, once the game starts, they're standing. They are looking left, right, and they're looking at, because I have prepared this. Is it going the way I want? And then he'll be like tweaking it a bit. Hey, I need more to the right. Because he's seen that, okay, I prepared them for the left, but they're going to the right. That is why I agree with you. For them to win the title, Arteta doesn't have to just rely on what he prepared during the week. He has to be able to make that real-time changes when the game is on. It's happening. We're not. We are being boxed out. The opponent is staying deeper than we expected. Okay, how do we handle it? Now, do I now have players to move in the other ways? It's the ability to be able to change and make that real-time effect of the game. As players, we need it. As a player, you need it, because there are certain things you're playing. You're just focused on what you have to do, and there are certain things happening that you don't see. That's where you need the boss to not tell you, look, no, you're doing this, but I am seeing this. Look, they are crowding you. You are getting always two opponents. Okay, now you have him a helping hand. That is where I feel that tactically, Teta has the role to play.
All right. So Sunday, as a coach, this 4-3-3 actually win games through the middle when the flanks are neutralized.
In fact, as a coach, when the flanks are neutralized, the middle should win the game for you. Because to neutralize the flanks, you need what we call in football doubling up. That means that each time the ball goes to the right, you will have a player that is to stop your own enterprising. Mostly, for example, when each time the ball goes to Saka, to stop Saka from beating the man easily, the opposition will send in somebody there to double up. And the person who's going to double up is going to try to, make them 2 versus 1 to stop him from doing. Now, the moment somebody is going to double up, that means they have left their own opponents to go to help out. That is where the midfielders then should now exploit the fact that if they have numerical superiority on the side, they have numerical inferiority somewhere else. That is where we have to run into. That is also why they are trying to free up Rice to be able to go more offensive, because that way, if you're trying to close up the wings, you have somebody coming into the middle that can hurt the opposition.
Alex, talent is obviously not enough for Arsenal. There's still that mental wall Arsenal hasn't broken just yet. Arteta has lost 2 title races from a winning position. You know that already. The team's mental fragility is well known. Why should we believe that adding 3 new players suddenly fixes the whole problem now? They are not Liverpool, Chelsea, or City. They still have a long way to go when it comes to mental toughness to be champions.
Yeah, I think it helps the fans. I think something that gets forgotten about in football when we talk about football is the importance of the fans. I do believe that the fans can be the 12th man, and I really think that a lot of the mental struggles that teams have can come from how the fans are in the stadium. How the fans are outside, because we live in a world where everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion that is now very kind of out there with the internet, with social media. You've got every single football team has a podcast. With Arsenal over the past, there's been a lot of anger. There's been a lot of pain from Arsenal fans that has caused this. As soon as something goes wrong, it kind of jumps on the back. Oh, we're here again. Oh, this is going to happen again. This is going to go wrong. Oh, what's Arteta doing because he made this mistake? Oh, Arteta out. We've had. I can't off the top of my head remember how long Pep has been at Man City, but we're coming up to. We must be coming up to what, 10 years? Yeah. Okay. And there's been very few mutterings during his career, even when Man City have been not doing well, of Pep out.
I really feel sorry for Gyökeres. That I must say. You see, Gyökeres is a player, if you watch him play, he's always running.
Yeah.
He's always running left, right. And every time he's running, I don't know if you noticed, he always has an opponent beside him while he's running.
Yes. Yes.
He has a problem, like we call it in football, losing the opposition. His runs are not timed. And that was one of the major problems Arsenal suffered in the past. Arsenal, they always want to touch the ball too much. Now, the fact that they always want to touch the ball too much, that means that even when the striker runs loose from the opposition, the ball does not come on time. The opposition have time to now close up the space that he has created for himself. He keeps on running. Now, that is where the manager comes into play. That is where the tactical play comes in. That is where the team tactic comes in. That is, when do we decide to release the ball? When does he start his run to become free? What happens after the run has been made? who goes to take over the space where he has vacated. Those are the things that I feel are handicapping this man from scoring a lot of goals. If this continues, no matter the striker you bring in, he will always have this problem. Because it is not finishing and getting the striker free has to be timed, it has to be planned, but he has to receive the ball well in a condition that he has him facing the goal when he gets the ball. That is what Arsenal are struggling from. That is why the striker is not scoring 25 goals.
Right. We saw something similar with Nunes last year for Liverpool. Yeah. And, I think the fans loved him. The fans absolutely loved it. He wasn't being booed off. He wasn't being booed off when he got substituted off. And, and things like that. But he worked so hard and he created so much and he became this kind of like fan, favorite, and people really wanted him to score. And the thing is that we saw that with, Arsenal last week when Gyökeres scored the goals against Atletico. The players came around him and it was like, oh yeah, fantastic, you scored a goal. And there was a lot of positive press about that. And I do see the positive side. I think it's fantastic that, players coming in, oh, your hard work is paying off. This is fantastic. This is great. Yeah. From the other side of it, I do look at it as a little bit of a mental thing of kind of like you're celebrating something that he should be doing. And I feel as if that is it summarizes Arsenal as a whole, is this early celebration of winning important games. So, you get these important games against, big rivals, big wins in the we saw it last season in the Champions League when, Rice scored those 2 amazing free kicks. I thought Arsenal would win the Champions League with the way that they celebrated. And it's like, I get it. I'm not a negative person. I'm a very positive person. I love the fact that, teams want to celebrate. I think you should celebrate every win. But the way that they do it, the way that the fans do it, and I'm sorry, Arsenal fans out there, nothing against you, but I do think it's a problem because it's this early celebration of just winning something important that you should and need to do to win the league. We've seen it in teams of the past, and I draw back on the 2016 season where Leicester won the league. They didn't have the mentality that Arsenal have when they're at the top. You had Ranieri saying every week he was being asked, can you win the league? Can you win the league? And he laughed it off. And I get that it's different because it's a team that 5,000 to 1 to win the league. But there was this the manager controlled the media. The manager controlled the environment of saying, do you know what? We need to win the next match. And that's what's important. I'm really happy that we've just won, but it's not enough. We need to go and win. It's pointless as having this big celebration, having a big party for this one win. We need to go win the next one.
Very, very funny. Ranieri said, they asked him, he said, hey, are you going to win the title? He said, yeah, we are fighting relegation.
Yeah, I just want 40 points. That's what I just want. Yeah.
But I'm not expecting that from Arteta. I'm not expecting Arteta to come out and say that he just needs 40 points. But
you're dominating. You're winning week in, week out.
Yeah.
And Vardy was scoring every week, and he was doing
Mahrez was, having the assist.
No, I'm just.
But you see the difference.
No, but Alex,
you see the difference, and I think that's a big thing.
I think you should be fair on Arsenal to an extent. I understand your point, where you're coming from. Maybe last season you can criticize them for that, but this season celebrating Gyökeres was more like giving him that encouragement and boost that you're able to score goals. He only has 3 goals in the league. He scored 2 against Leeds, and he scored a penalty. Yeah. After that, he has gone on minor drought until the Atletico Madrid game. Those 2 goals were not good goals, beautiful goals. They were scrambled goals, but they were enough to encourage the player that you can still score goals. You can get something, put your name on the score sheet. So I don't really think they were trying to celebrate any success there. They were just trying to boost the confidence of the young man. That's where my question will come from now. Sunday and Alex, you already mentioned how that is the job of the manager to help the striker and the other teammates to create chances for him. Look at his runs being timed. The players themselves on the pitch, don't they see that they have a striker that needs to score those goals, and they need to also adjust to the movement of the striker?
When it comes to the question of the striker and the players, feeling that he needs to score goals, when you're a striker at the end of the season, the first thing the world looks at is how many goals did you score? They don't care how many assists you did. In fact, a lot of people still find Thierry to be one of the most overrated players in the history of football.
Well, I do.
Well,
I can't agree with that.
I do.
I can't agree with that.
No, I'm not saying I do because I played with him. He's a friend of mine. But a lot of people find him to be the most overrated striker in the history of football. And why is that? Is that because they felt that the man played so many finals and he didn't even score one goal in them.
Mhm.
So they felt if you are one of the greatest players in the world, you effectively change it. And that's why Drogba Chelsea fans are fanatical about him.
Yeah.
Because every final this man scores. That is why I find Eto'o to be the greatest player to come out, the striker to come out of Africa. Every final Eto'o scores, and he doesn't score the third goal; he scores the first one. So he shows you the way. I've already opened the road. Okay, now guys, just make sure we don't concede. That is why I feel that for Gyökeres, that has to be the case. And Arsenal itself, I'll save this up for the 10%.
Okay. All right. So Sunday, since
think-
you're saving this for the 10%, it's time to play the devil's advocate now. You've been bold enough with the 90% prediction, but let's flip it. Give me one real tactical scenario, one classic opponent setup where these new additions could actually make Arsenal worse than last season.
Counter-attack. Tactically, when I look at this team, Zubimendi is a great player. He's good at cutting up the angles. He's good at passing the balls. He's good at supporting the attack. He's good at trying to break up defense, but he's not a very pacey player. That is why I love N'Golo Kante.
Yeah, Alex mentioned that too.
Because there is no, I go back to N'Golo Kante, that is the position I played for almost 20 years as a player. It is, in my opinion, the most difficult position to play in football because you have to be selfless. You are working for others.
Yeah.
If you are not fortunate to score some goals, you might end your career, nobody even know you existed. And N'Golo Kante breaks off counterattacks. With Arsenal now, if they low block, last season they were better breaking off counterattacks. That's where Partey was very important.
Yeah.
And this season, they had Partey and they were playing the midfield in a triangular form. That means they had two central midfielders, but now they're playing it in the inverted triangular form. That means they have one central defensive midfielder and two offensive midfielders going in. So that is where I think they are worse than last season. The teams that are going to hurt Arsenal are going to be teams that are going to be capable of sucking in Arsenal attack and going on the counter, pacey. This might surprise you. The defense line of Arsenal are not very fast either. Gabriel is not a player that will go 40 meters sprint with the striker and will be the one to reach there first. They are very smart. They are good when they have body-to-body contact, but they won't be able to. Yeah. So a counter-attack will really, really defensively hurt this team. That's where I feel they are worse than last season.
Declan Rice is an absolutely fantastic defensive player. And it doesn't get seen as much now that people are pushing him forward. But he was always one of those players really hardworking in midfield. And I feel that Arsenal have lost that a little bit from him and gained something else. But if teams can exploit that at the right times, I am a big believer that Crystal Palace can cause them trouble today. That might come back on me afterwards. We'll see when the podcast goes out. I think what you said about Conte, absolutely spot on. It's such an important role. And I think when teams have that, they become unbeatable. And there was a famous quote from, I think it was Danny Drinkwater or Jamie Vardy that said, well, it's a bit unfair for other teams because we have 12. We have 12 men. And he was like, oh, what do you mean? And he was like, well, we have N'Golo Kante.
Yeah.
These two players. I think one of the most important things of last season was Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or. You know, I think that just shows how important that role is. And I think you've seen it with Man City last season, struggling without him when he had that horrible injury. Arsenal don't have that. And I do believe that could be one of the downfalls, as well as the other things that we've discussed, that makes Sunday's 90% just a little bit lower.
The way a midfielder plays, a central midfielder plays, is not only based on the player's qualities, it's based on the instructions he is given to do. Now, look at Partey. When I saw Partey playing at Atletico Madrid, wow, he was unbelievable because he was playing to the instructions. He was doing some things for the team that limited where he had to be. You wouldn't see Partey trying to be the one to finish at Atletico Madrid. He was just cleaning up in the midfield. And he was so good. I was so sure he was going to go to a top club, and he did. He did go to Arsenal. I'm not trying to diminish what he did at Arsenal, but I'm just trying to say that he was better at Atletico Madrid than I saw him from a tactical point of view. So in this instance now, if Arsenal is going to play like they want to play, they want to go offensive, and you have so much players being offensive, your central defensive midfielder must be a player who sacrifices and says in his head, if I score 1 or 2 goals in this season, I've had an exceptional season. My aim is not to score goals. My aim, if I'm going to give assists, it has to be assists that are long balls, that are going 10, 20 meters off. If I'm going to score goals, it's going to be probably from shooting. That means I still have the whole game in front of me. And if I'm going to do well offensively, that means I am always there just to follow the team when they're going forward. Arsenal needs a player, not like a playmaker like Rodri. Why? Rodri was capable to be able to be a central defensive midfielder and also go forward to attack, because the team of Man City have this 70% possession of the ball anyway, and they play this high pressing. So that means even if Rodri is high up there, the moment they lose the whole ball, the whole team goes on a pressing mechanism that stops you even from countering against them. So it kind of like reduces the area he has to cover going backwards. So that, I think that is what I feel that is really, really important here.
We know the Premier League is not a sprint. It's a long, bruising marathon. So with the way the Premier League table is right now, is the path clear for Arsenal with their shiny new system and high expectations, or will a proven machine like Manchester City just test them? Especially now we know that the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea are falling all the way. They drop points over the weekend. Is the path clear for Arsenal now?
Oh, I hope this is for us. Alex, I want to watch.
Okay, Alex, have a go.
Yeah, so I think the path has been clear for Arsenal for a long time. No, I think look at last season. You've got Liverpool, new manager coming in.
I do it for 90%.
New managers coming in, players going out. Arsenal had the path clear. Still didn't win the league. Arsenal this season, you've got Man City have had a tough start to the season, you could say. They're only 3 points behind. Arsenal have already dropped points. The path is clear. I think the path being clear isn't the problem. I think Arsenal's mentality, I think Arsenal's ability to push through to the end of the season, I think Sunday's probably waiting for that 10% there, because, I do believe that, he believes the same, I have always loved the way that Arsenal play football. I've been a big admirer of Arsenal. The way that they play football, they're enjoyable to watch. As a neutral fan of the Premier, I don't support one of the top teams. I love to see a competitive season. So I really hope that we're going to have one of those Aguero moments at the end of the season. It's a tight season, and, maybe it is. Gyökeres gets the, I think Sunday's really pointed out some tactical things of what Arsenal are doing right at the moment. My issue is that what happens when those tactical things are not working for them? Are they able to adapt? Do they have the players to adapt? Do they have the manager to adapt? And do they have the fan base? Not that I want to upset the Arsenal fans, but do they have the fan base that can stick by them through the hard times and not create a toxic environment, of this nervous energy going into these big games? Like, oh, we have to win this game to win the league. Because, the way that Pep, for example, has been talking of the last week, he's like, you guys think that we're going to not win the league, and they're 3 points off the top and they could go top of the league today.
All right, Sunday, you've sold us and Arsenal fans on this dream. Even Alex himself has also said that the path is very, very clear. But every team has a crack somewhere. What's that one fatal flaw that could still derail Arsenal's title chase? That one thing that could turn that 90% confidence into a heartbreak.
Oh, if I understand this right, you're asking me to hit the 10%.
Yes, I'm asking for the 10% now.
Well, the fact that it's 90%, that tells you that the title is not won yet. And for you to win any title, you have to go 100% to win it. There is one reason. It's 10%, but it's so big that at the same time, that could derail. And is looking like it will derail the possibility of Arsenal being champions. And it's just 2 words. It is Mikel Arteta. Wow. In the sense that For you to become champions, that 10% that makes you champions is the manager. We spoke earlier. Alex spoke about Ranieri. That was the 10%. We spoke earlier. We've been speaking about Manchester City. Guardiola has been coming up each of the time. That is the 10%. We've spoken about Barcelona winning titles. Guardiola was there. That was the 10%. I personally feel sorry for Gyökeres. Gyökeres is struggling not because he can't score 20 goals. He's struggling because there is no tactical formation that has been put up there that puts him in positions to score goals. That is not coming from the player. That should be coming from the manager. Furthermore, if you're looking at it from this point of view, Arsenal have 90% to win the title. Because the other teams at the moment, I don't feel them being at their best this season. Like we said earlier, they all have the virus. And that virus, I don't think is going to be gone so soon. That is, and furthermore, when it comes to the players and the formation and the situation the club finds itself now, they have bought well. For me, this is the best transfer market Arsenal has ever made. In those 3 players they bought. Those players have fortified the team. They've stopped the team from having this tag in my mind that I never shared, this dumping ground scenario. That makes them now viable to win the title. And for once, they have a solid reserve bench. That means if 2 people are injured, the other ones could take up the relay. But the 10% here is going to be Arteta. Why? Because the team needs a tactician when the going gets tough. And the fact that for Arsenal to be champions, they need somebody to be able to craft out the mental strength when things are not going well. The mental strength comes from the boss. The ability of the boss to go into the dressing room at a halftime and pick up a glass of water and throw it at the wall and say, look, guys, we are sleeping. That is, if we don't wake up, we will not be champions. That is what makes you titles. Those qualities, Ferguson has it. Those are the qualities that Guardiola has. Those are the qualities that Ancelotti has, even though he does it in a subtle but intelligent way. He does it in the Godfather kind of way. He's Italian, come on. So they have it. And that is why I feel that Arsenal, if Arteta does not get his acts right, they can kiss the Premiership title goodbye. It is not going to happen. 90% is totally there. They have the capability to win it. But if they don't get that 10% from the manager to make them solid technically, tactically, and most importantly, psychologically, they will not win the title. Does my 10% make sense to you now?
It makes a lot of sense. And finally, we have the 10%. Thank you very much, Alex, for being part of today's episode.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's great. And I think Sunday and I are on the same page. I think it's just that my 10% is, let's call it 30.
Very true. All right, this was awesome. And for Arsenal fans' sake, I hope we don't come back here and discuss a different percentage. As at today, it's 90%. I hope we're not back here to talk about maybe 70%, in the course of the season. All right. And thank you very much again, Alex, for being part of this. It was lovely to hear from you. And of course, Sunday, as always, the coach himself always dissecting everything. And it looks like somehow I'll print out that T-shirt for you for Arsenal because if they eventually win the league, you put it on the show.
90%.
You have to put it on the show.
90%.
90%.
But please,
all right.
Don't forget my 10%.
Okay, yes, I won't forget your 10%. All right, thank you very much, guys, for listening all through the episode. We'll be here again in our next episode. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any suggestion on any topic you'd like us to discuss, you can put it in the comment section there. See you in our next video.